Hello again, everyone. This is Rudolph Wilkins with Forgotten Fitness, and I debated for a long time if I should really make this video. But I decided, since I do have a voice now and a platform, that it's really my duty to make a video on this subject. In today's video, I will be going over how we can make bodybuilding great again, and we'll be proposing a number of different ideas that I came up with to actually accomplish that goal. Now, it's no surprise to anybody that bodybuilding has been dying over the recent decades for a number of different reasons, which I will go over. And quite literally, we have seen in this year literal bodybuilding deaths, big names in the scene, and it is for sure going to continue. I hate to say that, and I'm not trying to be pessimistic, but it is simply the nature of the beast. When you play with certain compounds, it is inevitable. And it has gotten to the point now where more people are speaking out and taking notice. So this is my idea of how we can reverse this trend and go towards a more health-conscious bodybuilding sport. If you have any ideas about this video, any future video ideas, any recommendations for me, or any concepts you would like to share in the comment section below, please do. Also, feel free to share this video. I want it to get out to as many people as possible. I want a lot of people to see this because I really think these are good ideas that, if implemented properly, could really revolutionize the sport and change it for the better. So I hope you all enjoyed this video, and tell me what you think in the comment section below. So before I go over my ideas for how we can revert this trend in bodybuilding, I feel we should acknowledge some of the deceased bodybuilders in 2021, the great men we lost. To start off with, we lost John Meadows earlier in the year, and he was a very well-respected bodybuilder, an IFBB pro, a trainer, a coach, a YouTuber. He had a wonderful YouTube channel, and he was renowned for his conditioning. He was always known to be very lean and very vascular. We also lost the legend George Peterson, who again was a very large bodybuilder. He competed in the 212-pound division and also the classic physique division, but was a large competitor. He had a lot of muscle and again was known for his razor-sharp conditioning. And the one that really shocked everybody, we lost Shawn Rhoden, the 2018 Mr. Olympia champion, who defeated and dethroned Phil Heath. Now, he was a very large man, obviously, very muscular, and again, known for that razor-sharp conditioning. Do you see a trend here? And these are certainly not all of them. We lost, I think there was a list of over 20 names we lost this year. It's unbelievable. And I'm not going to be talking about different conspiracies regarding their passing or what might have caused it, because I think that's irrelevant. We all know what certainly was not helping them and possibly the cause itself, which I will discuss later. But I just wanted to acknowledge these men and just show you the faces of the individuals we lost. And like I said, this list is certainly not exhaustive. We lost well over 20 bodybuilders, males and females, this year, and it doesn't seem to be slowing down. So here are my ideas about why it happened and what we can do to fix it. The issue with things like this in society is people like to step back and wait for somebody to take action. And the issue with that is you get in a perpetual cycle where nobody ever takes action and change never occurs. Well, I want to propose a change. I want to list off a couple of the factors that contributed to these men and their deaths. All of the athletes previously listed, which are the three of them, they were all under 50 years old, which is incredibly young. The problem here is that athletes are expected to be both huge, very muscular, and very lean, which is a lethal combination. This is no surprise. And it is only possible via the use of copious amounts of drugs, these drugs being steroids and diuretics. Even if a bodybuilder is retired, the damage done to the internal organs in particular remains. You can see this in a lot of different retired bodybuilders. Their stomachs are very bloated, and that doesn't go away. And that's irreversible even if they lose muscle or fat in that area. The organs have literally grown. And that is contributed primarily because of steroids. It grows everything in the body. Now with diuretics, that's a little bit different. I will discuss that. The problems are not only, these problems are not only with the athletes themselves, but also with the sport itself. So the art of competition is all but gone, and I think that's a big key in why we're accepting these mass monsters and these freaks is the artistic element of posing, of seeing these physiques, of art in motion is dead. Pre-1990, you see that everything else is more important than size. What I mean by that is posing, presentation, the music, the look. All of it is more important than how big you are. So a lot of littler guys can still be very successful in bodybuilding. And another thing is you don't necessarily need to be very conditioned. Post 1990, they're looking for big guys, really large, and very conditioned, single-digit body fats, low single-digit body fats, and that is more important than everything, than presentation, than posing, than how long you can hold a pose, than music choice, and it takes precedence over everything, and I think that is where the problem starts. Size has been placed over all other criteria, and bodybuilding has lost its way because of it. And Vince Gironda had a very famous quote, and he said it best. Size without shape is grotesque, and I think we're at that point now where size has certainly become, it's just how big you can get. And we're seeing that with our current champions, that because they're so large, they're impossible to beat. And I have a few ideas of how we can revert that so that is not the case. So before you change the video, do hear me out. This is my ideal solution. To have a drug test, an all-encompassing drug test that would immediately disqualify the individual. That being said, this is completely unrealistic for numerous different reasons, including there is now an ingrained ideology for what bodybuilding is and should be. There is an expectation that I think we really can't go too far back from, and I think that's a real shame. There is, of course, natural bodybuilding, but as far as creating an all-encompassing drug test to eliminate it from the sport, period, cold turkey, I think it's just impossible. There would also be a certain backlash and boycott from the competitors, reducing the quality of the competition. Really great bodybuilders would be discouraged from even competing because of this, and that's really not what I want. Most importantly, though, is that even the best drug tests are flawed and can be cheated. There's numerous different videos online going over even how to cheat in a drug test, which is just horrible, but it's very true. I mean, I was in sports for a very, very long time. I saw it firsthand from people I knew who were cheating drug tests and how they did it. It's certainly possible even with the best drug tests in the world. So again, that just shows you how unrealistic it really is. With all this in mind, however, I do have some ideas how we can increase the quality of the sport without the need of the regular drug testing system, and also, along with that, how we can possibly reduce deaths and increase the longevity of these people in the sport they love. So here are my solutions. So although there are probably a couple more I could come up with, here are my 5 alternative solutions that I feel would both increase the quality of bodybuilding overall and decrease the likelihood of an early death from participating in the sport. Now, these are not quite in order. I would probably readjust them a little bit, but I think you need all of these to be implemented and not a single one for it to be successful. My first one would be that the individual must adhere to a strict body measurement and follow the Greek ideal. My second one would be that we must improve the stage and minimize distractions, and this includes both the lighting and the background. Number 3 would be less emphasis on conditioning. Number 4 is to improve posing, and number 5, judge the freaking posing round. That is so upsetting. When I found that out this year, that they don't even judge the posing round anymore, I was nearly sick to my stomach. Now I'll go over each of these 5 in detail, and if you have anything you would like to add on to any of them, do leave it in the comment section below. Now the first of these I will be discussing today, I would argue is probably the most important, that the athlete must adhere to strict body measurements and follow the Greek ideal. Now for those of you that have been in the game for a long time and know about Steve Reeves, Charles Atlas, and John Grimmick, you will know about the Greek ideal, and it all stems from the golden ratio. Now you can see I've actually laid the golden ratio in here, and it looks more complex than it really is. This same equation can be used to describe the ideal human body, hence Leonardo da Vinci's Vitruvian Man, which you can see on the bottom right here. Now this lays out how the human form is idealistically meant to look. So as you can see, it's not overly muscular in any way. Steve Reeves describes a similar concept in his book Building the Classic Physique the Natural Way, and lays out the ultra-symmetrical ratio, which is designed to create the body in perfect proportion. It is designed to keep the body in perfect proportion with itself. And you can actually follow this and do measurements on your own body to see if you fit in this ratio. Now, my modern solution and application for this ratio would be for a specific person, maybe the measurer or some certain title that doesn't exist yet. But their idea is before the competitors even step on stage, the specific body parts of the individual, both the arms, the calves, the neck, the chest, the waist, the thighs, everything is measured. And individuals who fall outside of a certain range, say 10% above or below the range on any particular body part, they are immediately disqualified. Now I know this sounds harsh, and this is intentionally exclusive, and will certainly create a more streamlined, healthy, and a group of appealing physiques. This quality will rely more on structure than true contractile tissue, so individuals will not need to be as big. They'll need to rely more on posing and presentation, keeping it more in the art form. Athletes will need to be more like artists in the gym, and every weight lifted, every machine touched will act as the stroke of a paintbrush, and they will have to put muscle on in particular parts. So they're not getting big for the sake of getting big, they're getting big for the sake of creating a streamlined physique that falls in these proportions. And I want to mention that not everybody is made to be a competitive bodybuilder. I think now the thing with social media that bothers me so much is it gives everybody the idea that they can do what you're seeing these IFBB pros do. And that is simply not the case. You're not able to do that. Well, not everybody, but a good percentage of the population is simply not able to do that. And the problem is you have those people pushing the limits, pushing the envelope, taking the drugs in a futile attempt to get to that certain size they need to get to be an IFBB pro, for example, and they're literally killing themselves or decreasing the quality of life they will have later. And I think that's really upsetting. And so what I'm trying to do is, yes, in a way, I guess, make this a more exclusive thing. Now, these are idols. These should be celebrity-like figures. So it's not something that simply everybody can just jump in and do. I don't feel that bodybuilding is that at all. Can you go home and lift weights and quote-unquote bodybuild and make yourself look better? Of course, I see no issue in that. But as far as becoming a competitive bodybuilder, not everybody is cut out to do it. And Steve Reeves would agree with that. So would Vince Gironda. And you need to realize what your capabilities are. If you're trying to force something into nothing into something, you will just fail miserably and only hurt yourself in the long run. So this idea is really important and would be very easy to apply. I think if you had a tape measure, you simply measure the different parts in comparison to the other elements as laid out in Steve Reeves' ultimate ultra-symmetrical physique ratio, and you can find out if the person falls within that 10% range. If they are in between that 10% range, maybe 5% off here, 5% off there, they can certainly compete. They still fall within that range. Now, this would open up a whole opportunity for somebody to get a new job or maybe a new activity, and they are the measurer, but I don't think there's any problem with that either. I think that would be easy to implement, and the IFBB certainly has enough money to do it, especially considering they're losing all these bodies, and this would help save them. So I think this is a great idea. On to number 2. Now, number 2 has less to do with the actual bodies on stage and the whole presentation instead. So number 2 is that we must improve the stage and minimize distractions, and this includes the lighting and background. In the old days, for example, a plain red or black curtain was often used in professional bodybuilding competitions behind the competitors. And this was intentionally neutral. There was nothing behind it, so that your focal point was the physiques themselves. But nowadays, advertisement graphics for various different companies are played in a rotation behind the athletes with all these flashing colors, and it's too much. It's a muddle, it's a mess, and it really takes away from the physiques. It obscures the detail of the competitors and is just really distracting, and I think everybody agrees with that. I've seen so many people posting this, and it is just so true. Another big thing is that the overhead lights are not standardized. You have some competitions where the lights look great and you can really see the detail in the muscles, and then other competitions where they're far too dim and you lose a lot of the detail. Or the lights in the audience are too bright and the ones over the competitors are too dim, and again, you don't get that really nice shadow that you need to see the muscles in detail. My modern solution would be to enforce a strict single color and neutral color background. For example, you could use black, red, even white, and keep advertisements off stage while also ensuring a nice lighting profile directed solely on the athletes. Keep the audience in darkness. I see no issue with that. They do that at a lot of different concerts. If you were to see a play, they do that. It's the same thing. This is contemporary art in motion. Treat it that way. In looking at these two photos here, Big Ramy outweighs Larry Scott by nearly 100 pounds. I mean literally nearly 100 pounds. But when you look at how the lighting is placed, the fullness you see in Larry's arms and his shoulders, they even rival Big Ramy's. And I think a lot of that has to do with the lighting itself. And, I mean, Larry Scott was an incredible bodybuilder with an awesome physique, especially his upper body. But even looking at his calves, I mean, they look incredible. And I really think that has a lot to do with the lighting and the background. It's a neutral background with exceptional lighting. And I think if we used that as a guidance and incorporated these ideas back into modern bodybuilding, it would make it 20 times better right off the bat. On to number 3. Now, number 3 is certain to ruffle some feathers and probably be pretty controversial, but somebody needs to say it. We need to stop rewarding hyper-conditioned individuals in this sport. I really think it will make a difference in terms of the life longevity of these individuals. When you reward the hyper-conditioned individual, you inadvertently promote the most dangerous drug in all of bodybuilding, and these are the diuretics, which is a class of drugs. And diuretics force an unhealthy amount of water out of the body via the kidneys and are typically used towards the end of a bodybuilding prep to pull out the last bit of water and to really dry out. Now, these drugs are so heavily abused now, and so many bodybuilding coaches simply add them into the routine willy-nilly, and it is so dangerous. When heavily abused, they result in kidney failure, renal failure, can make you diabetic. There's a number of different issues with them. And the truth of the matter is that I personally even prefer the more full looks that we got during the 1950s and 60s, and I think a lot of people really do. They look very muscular, but the shape is pleasing. The midsection is tight. You can look at Bill Pearl here, and he has a very tight midsection. You know, I wouldn't say that he's spilling over in any way. Everything looks cinched. The abs look nice. He's just holding a little bit more water, and I think that's totally okay. It is more sustainable and definitely more healthy in the long run. So my modern solution here would be stop rewarding the hyper-conditioned people. Stop letting them be the winners just on the basis of size and conditioning. Instead, reward people who look very full, who look very big. How we can actually prevent this is to test athletes' body fat percentages prior to a show and disqualify anyone below a certain unhealthy percentage that could literally lead to death. Let's say 8% or maybe 6%. These numbers here in brackets are more of ideas. They're certainly not final answers. They're just my takes. So anything below 6 or 8%, let's say. And if you're below that, you're automatically disqualified. We're also seeing this kind of thing going on in combat sports, for example, in the UFC, where people are getting overly lean and literally having to go to the hospital and get fluids pumped into their system because they're cutting too much. It's the same kind of thing. They're looking for ways to change that, and I think we should be looking for ways to change this, because this is even worse in my humble opinion. We are literally seeing bodybuilders dying in prep For example, like George Peterson, we are seeing bodybuilders die in prep. It is very upsetting. And I think the fuller look just looks better in every way. When you compare Bill Pearl to Andreas Munzer, there is no comparison. And yes, I put the ages there intentionally for you to see. Bill Pearl, still alive, born in the year 1930, he just turned 91. It is unbelievable, his longevity, and as far as I know, he's still training as much as he can as a 91-year-old man, but it's simply inspirational. Andreas Munzer, on the other hand, was only 31 when he passed away in 1996. He was known for his really conditioned physique, and he had a lot of size, but it ended up costing him his life at 31. And I know if you were to ask him if he were still alive, if he would do that, if he would do what he did, and I am certain he would say no. He would regret what he did. It's not worth it for that 10 seconds of fame. Bill Pearl has had a full 60 years over Andreas Munzer's life, and it's really a shame. I am certainly not trying to talk down on these individuals. They gave their life to the sport, but I think there are ways that we can save people in the future, and this is certainly one of them. On to number 4. Now, number 4 here is really going to help out the smaller man and encourage bodybuilders to be a little bit more tight and lean and maybe a little bit less muscled, and I think that's a good thing. Remember, that's what we're going for here. We have to improve posing, and what I mean by that is encourage artistic flair in poses. I think that is not done nearly enough. Everybody is expected to look cookie cutter exactly the same, and Bill Pearl said it in an interview one time that loses identity. You don't have identity to the individuals anymore. I don't think there's anything wrong with the mandatory poses they've picked at all. I think they're, for the most part, pretty classic and have been done for a very long time. But variety in execution would make posing feel a lot more like a live exhibition. You can pick out your favorite person and follow them and root for them, rather than them all looking cookie cutter exactly the same and looking for little bitty details to pick out them between them. It's just not enough. Also, I think you should consider facial expressions and reward a calm composure. Straining while posing should result in decreased points during that round. Now, Vince Gironda was really famous for giving a big old smile whenever he posed, or a nice smiling grimace, and he would flex to the point where, as the minutes even went on, because he would hold poses sometimes for a minute at a time, his muscles would just begin to pop and balloon up and really look very vascular and look great. And he wasn't a big man, but he knew how to work with what he had. I think a lot of the stuff that we lose nowadays involves the lower body as well. I think leg placement needs to be changed. Nowadays you see these splayed legs, which I actually call individuals that do this, they look a lot like a spider. I've heard that thrown around. I think that's hilarious, and it's so true. They kind of look like a spider or like a crab, but their legs kind of splayed out like this. Instead, we should encourage a more elegant approach with only a single leg kicked out, or perhaps the legs straight up and down and flexed. I think that looks great too. Stop judging so much on the sweep of the quadricep and judge more on the calves, because calves are so important. They make up half of your leg, for God's sakes. Again, some people just don't have calves, and they should be docked for that. And that should be a big sticking point. Individuals with better calves should be getting rewarded for that. Now, you do see this kind of artistic posing flair more in classic physique division, in the modern classic physique division, and I think that's great. But I think a lot of them are already too big as well. I think Wesley Vissers is about as big as I would ever recommend a bodybuilder to get, and I really do mean that. And a lot of people consider him small or slender. I think he looks great. I think he's the uppermost limit we should encourage for all of bodybuilding. He looks classic. He looks how bodybuilders should look, and he poses with artistic flair. I feel that this should be integral in all of bodybuilding, not just encouraged in the classic physique. My modern solution here would be to encourage artistry and award uniqueness in posing, and to discourage uniformity. Be yourself. These athletes need to become their own unique character, and award the athletes for standing straight and proud, and punish those who squat down and look bow-legged. It shouldn't be so much about your inner thigh. It should be about the entire leg, the presentation of a masculine leg, or a feminine leg for that matter. It is an art, and it needs to be treated as life-mimicking art. It shouldn't be treated as a freak show. And that's why this is all just so upsetting to me. Here you can see Vince Gironda with his very elegant stance, doing a front lat spread, not straining at all, with a smirk on his face, knowing he looks great. And you should notice the balanced legs, with calves equal to the size of the quads. There are better pictures of this out there, but trust me, he had very good calves for his quads. Dennis Wolf, on the other hand, looks very forced in this position, and it's a very unnatural looking stance. No human ever stands like this. You should also notice the overdeveloped upper legs and the underdeveloped calves. That's another big point. But I feel like if we improve posing, we will definitely encourage the smaller man to take up competition and maybe change a little bit of the current atmosphere of the sport. On to number 5. Now, number 5 really pissed me off when I found out about it. And I'm going to show you what I mean by my conclusion here. But they need to just judge the posing round. There's a simple solution here. At the 2021 Arnold Classic competition, Sergio Oliva was awarded the best poser of the night, which is a big accomplishment. And to be honest, I think his presentation was pretty damn good. He's starting to fill out a lot more like his father now. He's got his own problems in his physique, but he looked pretty good. Yet his placing during the posing round was the same as his final placing for the entire show, which was 6th place. And that is just ridiculous. Look at this, 29 points versus Nick Walker's 5. You're telling me Nick Walker was that much better in posing, just hitting a couple of mandatories, than Sergio Oliva Jr.? No. What this leads me to believe is that the posing round means absolutely nothing currently and is not judged like the other rounds at all. Actually, in fact, what it's doing is they are picking who has already won the competition, and it is simply for some extra prize money. But if they ended up changing the points in the routine and gave Sergio Oliva, let's say, 5, he might jump up a few spots, but that doesn't match what they already had on their scorecard here, which is just really sick when you think about it, because he's losing out on the placing, on the money he would have made in competition, because they have already pre-decided his placing. I mean, why even have it at that point? This needs to change, as it will encourage athletes of all sizes to improve their posing and presentation. And naturally, a smaller athlete will also have an advantage here when it comes to presentation, as they will be able to be more nimble and hit certain poses that a bigger man might not be able to hit. And the same is true for a bigger bodybuilder. And I think if you incorporated this, make the posing round really important, it will encourage a more beautiful body, rather than somebody like Ronnie Coleman, who's just throwing it up in the air and doing a couple of big poses and showing off how massive he is. Make it like an art form. When you watched Arnold pose, for example, he had posing down to a T, and it was very artistic in nature. That is what we need to see now. My modern solution here would be to judge the posing round like any other round. It counts, and it's its own individual thing. Award creativity here, and the music choice. Now, these are my 5 ideas. Feel free to drop your own ideas down in the comment section below. I figured I would do something a little bit different this week, and I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you do have any future video ideas, let me know in the comment section below, and tell me what you thought about this one. I hope you all enjoyed something and it gave you something to think about. And until next time, this is Forgotten Fitness signing out. Bye-bye.